my ongoing thought and observation around the planetary thinking. And it's great to see a lot of the familiar faces in this online meeting room and also some new ones also. So let me briefly introduce myself. Um, my name is Fan-Ting CHENG, and I teach at the Graduate Institute of Taiwan Literature at National Taiwan University. I mainly offer courses in literary and cultural theory, as well as queer and feminist studies. And in recent years, my research has been focused on contemporary theater and performance art in Taiwan. And compared to more traditional approaches to theater studies, which often center on analyzing scripts and text, my work takes a different direction. I pay a lot of attention to the broader context of production and coordination. So, for example, things like conceptual development, design ideas, curation and spatial arrangement, marketing strategies, the actual performance itself, and even the debate or review or discussion that follow the productions. So with this more meta and somewhat distance perspective, my goal isn't just to interpret a work through the playwright's original framework. Instead, I am interested in how that framework was constructed, how it's performed, and how it might be disrupted or broken apart. And in fact, the landscape of contemporary theater in Taiwan has gone through many directional shifts over the years. In a paper I wrote last year on the evolution of Taiwan contemporary theater, I trace its transformation from the 1950s to the present. And in the recent decade, contemporary Taiwan theater, while inheriting elements of traditional xi and engaging in avant-garde experiment, has been shaped by the rise of digital technologies, transdisciplinary trends, and the disruption brought on by the pandemic. And as a result, it has evolved into a hyper complicated genre of performative practice. Within this genre, all aspects of theatrical operation, ranging from marketing to ticketing to mise-en-scene, performance methodologies, and even post-performance activities have all become central concern for everyone involved in theater making. In response to this phenomenon, I proposed a critique of involution that emphasizes post-colonial survival strategies. This involves analyzing the hybrid uses of puzzle games, site-specific tours, participatory formats, digital device, like internet platforms, immersive scenographies that frequently appear in recent productions. By examining the manifestos, tools, and real-world effects of representative works in this genre, I argue that the evolution of contemporary Taiwan theater not only reflects the dynamic interplay between aesthetics and politics on this island, but also allegorizes a post-colonial choreography of resource and circulation. The heterogeneous labor of um, participatory in these complex operations points to a shared condition of effective repair. So at this point, you might be wondering why, in a discussion about planetary thinking, I began by outlining the shifting in contemporary Taiwan discussion about um, contemporary Taiwan theater and emphasizing the importance of a critique of involution. But in fact, my observation on planetary thinking in the context of Taiwan theater necessarily begin from this kind of reflexive perspective. So in 2006, the International Astronomical Union officially removed Pluto from the list of major planets. I'm sure that many of you know this. And they reclassify it as a dwarf planet based on factors like its mass and orbital tilt. And this decision didn't just affect astronomers. It sent shockwaves through the world of popular science, disrupting what had long been a staple of educational textbook and childhood learning everywhere. And at the same time, as the concept of the nine planets dissolved, other scientific ideas like dark matter, quantum probability amplitude, and the uncertain principle all emerged to shake the very foundation of how we understand the universe and our place in it. The modern worldview that humans have worked so hard to build was suddenly exposed to deep uncertainty. But this scientific shift isn't happening in its isolation. In recent years, we've also faced the global rise of neoliberalism, hybrid welfare, extreme climate events, and major pandemics. These events, along with the ongoing states of precarity and emergency they bring, have forced all of us to reflect more critically on environmental issues, international politics, and even the idea of the anthropocentric itself. And in this context, the dream of human-centered welfare or utopia no longer holds. Humans are no longer the sole agents of resistance or change. Instead, we are beginning to recognize the interconnectedness of all beings, the way in which our future are entangled with those of plants, animals, objects, and systems. The agency and capability of non-human entities have come to the foreground. This is where discourses like ecofeminism and new materialism have become especially important. While they differ in focus, both of them challenge traditional anthropocentric ways of thinking. Ecofeminism highlights the link between gender and racial discrimination, speciesism, and ecological exploitation. As for new materialism, meanwhile, questions the long-standing divide between mind and body, human and non-human. It emphasizes the vibrant entanglement between all things, living and non-living, and propose a relational, material way of understanding existence. In response to this broader shift, the humanities have already introduced the term eco-art to describe forms of artistic practice and content that engage directly with ecological concerns. Among these voices, Paul Ardain has argued that art lies at the heart of the ecological struggle. He believes that artists, or he said artivists, should take responsibility in laying the groundwork for restoring the relationship between human and the environment. And while Ardain's call indeed reaffirms eco-art's commitment to interconnectedness and care, it also reveals a lingering tension. His framework, despite its ecological intention, remains rooted in a human-centered logic of responsibility. In his view, ecological is still positioned as something passive and fragile, something to be saved by we humans, right? And this raises a fundamental paradox within the artistic creation. Can human being produce art that is non-anthropocentric? Or to push it even further, can human think what is unthinkable for human? As both scientific and humanistic disciplines work to challenge anthropocentric ways of sensing and perceiving the world, experimenting with concepts like polyphonic assemblage or the parliament of things, we must ask, are these speculative frameworks and artistic strategies truly capable of forming non-human centered networks and alliances? Or are we still in some way thinking through the humans? In this context, theater, precisely because of its performative nature and rehearsed embodiment, offers a uniquely powerful entry point. Its inherent lightness allows it to embrace instability and openness, making itself an ideal medium for engaging with speculative and relational thinking. In recent years, influenced by shifting global geopolitics, scientific breakthroughs, and evolving discourses in the humanities, Taiwan's performing arts and theater industry has seen a surge in productions that explore themes such as local ecologies, astronomy, and science fictions and cosmic existence. From commercial theater to experimental black box productions, from children's theater to avant-garde. A lot of creators have been pushing boundaries in both form and content. Amid this vibrant wave, I have also observed that a particular mode of thoughts, what we might call, or I might call, planetary thinking, is gradually taking shape in Taiwan theater. Of course, the ecological dimension in theater is not a recent invention. As early as 1960s, Marietta Palace introduced the concept of ecodrama. She used wetlands as both subjects and sites, immersing audiences in nature reserves in hopes of cultivating ecological awareness and a sense of environmental care. Her work combined ecological management discourse with consideration for accessibility, especially for disabled participants. This is good. However, it still follow a familiar narrative structure, treating nature as a beautiful, fragile backdrop in need of human protection, and lacked meta-theatrical innovation at the level of production and coordination. Since then, much of eco-theater has remained within similar frameworks. It's only in more recent years that theater makers and scholars such as Ahmadi Mohabbat and Comrade Alexandrowitz have begun to critically reflect on this tradition. They recognize the anthropocentric structures embedded in conventional drama and advocate for the inclusion of non-human performers and in agency in theatrical creations. And in Taiwan, a large portion of eco-theater has focused on environmental production. A typical example is If Kids Theater, 如果儿童剧场, a 2023 production, Three Frogs on the Run, The Mission to Save the Pound. This kind of work often resolve around the destruction of the local ecosystem and tells a rescue story through the eyes of children. Nature is usually personified like a character and made cute, approachable, and lovable, but also helpless and in need of saving. The human protagonist embarks on an adventure, and ultimately they will resolve the little heroes, they will ultimately resolve the ecological crisis. But I'm sure many of you can already see the problem here, right? So this open oversimplified narrative structure is deeply rooted in anthropocentrism. And of course, in recent years, there have also been many ecological theater productions that do not target children or as their target audience. One striking example here is Oyster Night March. Let me see. 鹅啊夜行军, produced by Short One Player in 2013. While this piece also addresses ecological concerns through the lens of oyster framing, it moves away from the traditional hero narrative in which humans always act as the savior of nature. And instead, the story centers on oysters whose very survival is threatened by petrochemical industry expansion. The production highlights the oyster's agency, not as passive victim, but as furious and vengeful beings asserting their power in resistance. And here's a highlight reels from the performance that I want to show. So let me temporarily stop the sharing the screen and then switch to the website. Is it working now? Can you see the YouTube right now? Yes? Okay. So this is the 鹅啊夜行军, a very short real clip, highlight reel clip.
那以前鼓掌鼓掌的鹅啊，就像我们现在的 rock 一样。
Um, so this is I didn't have the premium YouTube, I'm sorry. So there will be advertisement, but let me oh my god. Sorry for this. I should subscribe first.
啊，你俾你食嘢喎，啊，你食我買，溫州啊食過係，同溫州啲大飯嘅，而家有人最近陪人說，对吧？在超现代开着会，他们不相符，不会也不会结婚，要世界把波动一起拖下水，他们说这是正当防卫。第603位先生拉起他刚才手术的痕迹。哎，我已经开刀5次了啦，我不想我的儿子跟我一样了啊！出来的各位，还是
So you can kind of get a sense it's a very fun, it's a very hilarious and very engaging and even participatory performance that put these oysters as they are the center role of the performance, the narrative, and have them to speak for themselves for the issue that's stake. And right now, let's get back to the okay. So in parallel with the rise of ecological awareness, community revitalization policies, and the diversification of performance formats, there has also been a wave of site-specific or mobile eco-theater projects. For example, in 2022, Uncertain Studio 测不准工作室 creates 6 streams along the coast. This is a production where audiences board a tour bus and travel through the Kaohsiung city, encountering the firsthand ecological and social consequence of the city's petrochemical industry. Please also let me play a short clip from the pieces as well. Okay, so this is the 沿海6个梦。
拖到南高雄。
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay, so you can see how everybody is on board on the tour bus.
纠结的关系。
This is the performance group. They are introducing the piece. And if you are a participant, you will feel like you are in a tour trip.
都是石化管线，就是我第一个梦的部分呢，叫做高雄石化管线图。
So we will skip this part. I want to show you how they kind of mimic the formats of like an attraction tour trip. These are all audiences. And they will also get off the bus and then wander
离
around
开
the
高雄
local
市区之后，就
area.
到我们第二个梦临海工业区。然后临海工业区是南高雄很大的重工业园区，我会大家穿越临海工业区。第三个梦的话，我们会到南星计划，是小港区的一个废弃物填海的新生地。大家是可以在这个预定地上面随意的游走，然后戴着耳机。那耳机里面呢，会是南星这块土地，它这40几年来的经历。
Okay.
伫我出世的时阵，对我的未来只有愿望者是大人，一个，即马拢对我。
I will temporarily stop here and then back to the PowerPoint. So already we have a sense of how 沿海六个梦 feels like. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. And these science-based works often invite participants to step into the actual neighborhoods and spend extended periods of time exploring the surrounding environment or interacting with local residents. As a result, the move away from traditional theatrical conventions and more closely resemble curated experimental events. Because these performances no longer take place within the control space of a theater, they demand careful planning, right? Coordinating labor, resources, props, and accounting for weather, for traffic, for local custom and business hours, all in order to ensure the safety, engagement, and meaningful participation of the audience. But however, this leads us to a crucial contradiction. Can an experience that is very carefully designed, scheduled, and executed by humans truly represent the thinking or presence of the non-human world? Or does it ultimately reinforce human control even in its attempt to decenter it? So here's another one, Su Wenqi's Anthropic Shadow, 人类黑区 premiere in 2019, can be seen as an attempt to render deep time, that is, temporalities far beyond human perception, through visible stage design and corporeal performance. The work raises urgent questions around global warming and climate change by visualizing geological process. A massive landscape of black plastic on stage stands in for shifting tectonic plates, desert dust storms, the remapping of lakes and wetlands, and finally a polluted black ocean. Through this visual metaphor, the pieces seek to evoke a planetary history that spans million or even billion of years. And also let me show the clip. Sorry, today we'll kind of like switch back and forth. So this is Su Wenqi's 人类黑居. This is like a oh no.
应该说，人类黑区其实是
This is more like a trailer for the
世界或是
performance.
地球毁灭这个原因。所以，当我们面对到，譬如像暖化这样的一个直接冲击到一个好像人类将要毁灭或是末日这样的一个情景，我们怎么样去面对这样的未知的状态？
So you can see the black plastic.
这个未知啊，所以我们那时候就想象说，如果它是一个场景的话，那它会是什么？有一种或者是说那个荒芜，就是又是一种好像有点陌生的一个风景这样子。
就是其实这次声音设计的主题就是依照每一个场景的想象，比如说像第一段的时候听到的是像是海洋比较深层的板块运动的声音， 后从自然的元素，然后不断的从人类的文明的推进的这样的一个事件，然后去做发展。
我们想要跳脱一种好像以人类为就是以人类为主的一个思考的观点，然后去想象说，我们今天比如是我们自己化身成一片大海，那我们怎么去理解或者试想演化这样的过程对这个生态的一种影响
？Sorry,
Okay.
Fan-Ting,
Yes.
could you please translate a little bit for the ones who don't understand Chinese?
Okay.
Thank you.
So it's a little bit let me so they're trying to express so these people are the performance crew of the production, and they're trying like the so this woman is the stage design. So she's trying to like design a stage that is not anthropocentric, and saying that how she used the materials to kind of to delineate the image or the imagination of the scene, the non-anthropocentric scene. And for this man right here is the sound design. And he's also like echoing this theme and trying to do it. But what I wanted to emphasize right here is you can see here's the so they want to visualize, right? Use this plastic bag, the huge gigantic material to kind of represent how they imagine the universe beyond human perception. But so can get a sense, but I kind of not really like buying this idea, because I think if this is that let me show. Maybe so this is the you can see they wanted to like use the smoke, right? A lot of the stage design and also the mise en scene, like a lot of the smoke, the bags and the clothing, the sound, but all of these are still like human design, right? So let me maybe later we can also discuss more about the video and also the previous video together. Let me get back to the eh? Eh? What happened? Oh no, how can I get back to the okay, stop and then get back to the PowerPoint. So you can see the gesture also introduces a very critical tension, right? So if the notion of the anthropic shadow, really they wanted to points precise to the disaster that lie beyond the limit human vision and comprehension, then isn't it the act of making them visible on stage by the material that I show you inherently problematic? Could it risk flattening or simplifying the very complexity and inaccessibility it aims to evoke, right? And moreover, there's a temporal dissonance between the audience seat experience that perhaps 60 to 90 minutes, like you spend 1 to 1.5 hours right there. And also, but the temporality on stage is very different, right? So this disjuncture, it raises a deeper question. Does the piece ultimately remain within the poetic and anthropocentric mode of imagining of non-human other, rather than truly decentering the human perspective? So the question remains, can theater actually generate non-human ways of thinking? And to explore this, I would like to turn to the last two final big examples. So one is the most pickless 24-hour sleep experiment, and another one is the Langasa International Performing Arts Festival. So the first one, in 2023, Most Picklets 缓步动物, an experimental performance collective founded by Lü Dairu in 2021. So they launched a project called 24-hour sleep experiment, hibernation into the mycelium world, which I will simply refer to as the hibernation project. So this group's name, the moss piglets, is inspired by a microscopic, very interesting organism, more commonly known as the tardigrade, which was the first known Earth species to survive in outer space. I think it's quite amazing. And its extraordinary resilience has become a metaphorical foundation for the group's interest in ecological adaptability and diversity. So the hibernation project was staged in a remote mountain guest house in Miaoli and involved around 15 participants over a full 24-hour period. The activity include exercises mimicking sleep and hibernation patterns of various species, like night hiking and meditation, and experimenting with non-human dietary habits. Because the program unfolded continuously across the entire 24 hours with little to no downtime. So basically, most of the participants, ironically, have very little chance to actually rest or sleep, despite sleep being the central theme. And instead, they found themselves in a heightened state of mental alertness, constantly shifting between tasks, responding to instructions, reflecting on concepts, and enacting a complex schedule of waking and sleeping. And many participants, including me, experienced sleep deprivation constantly on the move or stretch theme. In this sense, we could say that the project was a failure, right? Most participants reported that they were exhausted and unable to truly imagine, much less embody, the sleeping rhythm of plants or fungi, let alone sleep with them in any meaningful way. I smell really bad after participating in the production. And yet, I would argue that it is precisely in these layers of failure, in the breakdown of empathy, the breakdown of identification, the breakdown of rest, that the project comes closest to enacting what it sets out to explore, a non-human centered relational coexistence as theorized in neo-materialism. In other words, the impossibility of fully aligning with non-human rhythm ironically becomes the very space where the limits of the human are exposed and where something like a shared ecology of precarity and coexistence begins to take shape. In the first sleep mimicking activity, participants were given headphones. We are given headphones to listen to a pre-recorded audio story as we walk into a bamboo grove deep in the hillside. And guided by the facilitator, we were invited to either sit or lie down on an unfurnished bamboo pavilion, attempting to experience the forest mode of sleep. Since there was no designated start or end time for this exercise, participants could remain there for as long as we want. And yet, unsurprisingly, none of us actually fell asleep. Instead, we were repeatedly disturbed by the mosquito bites, by the dim and eerie twilights, by the humidity in the air, by the unclean surface of the pavilion, or simply the presence of other participants nearby. Later, during the dinner, everyone gathered in the guest house first floor dining area to eat salmon prepared by the organizers, accompanied by nuts, honey, lettuce, and carrots, a meal designed to simulate bear food. The participants, we seem to enjoy the dinner and engage in a lively and happy conversation. And notably, one of the facilitator, Huang Dingyun, openly reflect on the design of this part of the project. So Dingyun tells me in the interview. So he says, since it was supposed to be bear food, we initially wanted to serve raw salmon, but in the end we had to cook it, partly because for technical reason, and also because we didn't want anyone to get sick after the performance. So grilling it also probably made it more enjoyable anyway and cooked. So that evening, the group went on a guide hike into the forest. Although we walk in along a paved road. It's a paved road, right? The surrounding darkness, lit only by the moonlight, made the environment feel very mysterious and precarious. So many participants, including me, we all moved very cautiously, some even holding hands to help each other navigate stones and ledges. The facilitator, Lü Dairu, so she encouraged everyone to use our bodies to sense the breathing of the forest, to listen to the rustling of the leaves, and even to lie down and imagine what it might feel like to be a tree. But however, no one actually lay down. I was very anxious about laying down. I feel it's very dangerous. And the trail was too dangerous, the visibility too low, and the participants, despite our best efforts, remain upright, at most closing their eyes in silence. On the way back, the group, we briefly got lost because the organizers were unfamiliar with the route. Everyone reminded each other not to wander off. Um, we are very close by to the cliff. And after some back and forth searching, we eventually returned safely to the guest house, thank God. But by then, participants were visibly tired due to our natural circadian rhythm, and some began to kind of experience frustration or negative emotion. What was originally designed as the contemplative immersion in the life world of plants turned instead into a moment of disappointment and embody recognition of the impossibility of being a tree. As human, the participants were not nocturnal creatures, right? Not night forests, saturated with carbon dioxide and steeped in shadow, invoke fear rather than empathy. The episode of getting lost further reveal the vulnerability of our human body in natural environments and the eventual return to the safety or build structure, the hotel, highlight the stark contrast between human and plants modes of existence. And these are two of the photographs were taken by myself during my participation in the project in 2023. So the first image on the left captures a cluster of snow fungus, 雪菇, emerging from a weather bamboo joint in the forest undergrowth, a quiet encounter between decay, moisture, and fungal life. The translucent fungal body rests against the bamboo as if it's listening, offering a moment of non-human presence within the folds of organic debris. And the second image on the right-hand side was taken at dusk in the mountainside bamboo forest too. The dim, diffuse light filter through slender bamboo stalks, creating a dense vertical rhythm of shadow and stillness. This forest slope, covered in fallen bamboo leaves, evokes a sense of quiet hibernation and an immersive space where orientation is oft softened and sensory boundary between porous. So together, these images document a personal engagement with the forest as a living, unknowable collaborator, foregrounding themes of dormancy, mutual indifference, and the impossibility of fully inhabiting another life form's perspective. Rather than illustrating ecological harmony, they gesture toward a humble mode of being with. So one based on proximity without mastery and recognition without comprehension. The various failure of the project, the inability to meet the goals, the original goals, and the unexpected detours, the moment of breakdowns and deviation from the schedule all points to a fundamental dilemma. As human, participants cannot truly experience what it is to be non-human, and yet it is precisely these seemingly negative experiences, the sense of disconnection, fatigue, hunger, and disorientation and frustration that exposes the paradoxical truth of our relationship with non-human others, a relationship that is both inaccessible and deeply entangled. The impossibility of becoming a plant or a fungus is revealed not through the metaphor, but through the live contradiction. What appears on the surface to be a coherent, well-designed narrative structure is, in practice, disrupted by the uncontrollable variation of real time, real bodies, and real environments. This contrast between the structure and the breakdown echoes the existence of an objective reality that lies outside human prediction, synthesis, and or comprehension. And through these disruption, participants like us were made to feel the unbridgeable gap between themselves and the non-human world. And I don't really have the video of this piece to show, unfortunately, but I would love to show another art project, a short clip by Moss Piglet, so we have a sense. And this piece is called My Skin Code on Our 36,000 Fungal Sexes. Some of the methods that they use are actually quite similar. So let me briefly show the this clip. This is very short. We also have the very similar exercise. Oh no, sorry. Wait. Okay, back. So this is Lü Dairu, the woman on the left. So you kind of see that, there's a lot of different diverse activities that all participants participate together. No one is like simply watching and observing. You have to feel what is going on by your own body. Sorry, I think it's because of my the signal is weak, so the video, the pixels not so great. It also kind of reveal how we are infected, influenced by the digital. Okay, it comes clear now. And also like the participants, we are often encouraged to create or to like forge some of the new modes of thinking, new modes of ways of inhabiting the world or perceiving the society, perceiving the mountain, the forest, the trees, the fungus. Okay, so this is the 36,000 fungal sexes. Let me stop it and then get back to the PowerPoint. Okay. Okay. So let's head to the last example, which is the Langasan International Performance Art Festival. The festival resonates strongly with the principle of planetary thinking, emphasizing collaboration, coexistence, reflexivity, and openness. And founded in 2012 by Adele Palaf Langasan. Langasan Theater comprises a diverse collective of artists, craftspeople, writers, historians, laborers, farmers, and students, drawn from various ethnic groups, including indigenous communities, Plants indigenous people, Hakka and Haklo. Beyond indigenous cultural traditions, their works integrate methods from performing art, community theater, poor theater, and environmental theater, constructing a theatrical aesthetic that continually incorporates others while remaining critically self-reflexive. We can also get a sense of the festival's atmosphere from the next video. Okay, next video. So this is not this is so Langasan is a festival happening annually, and this is one of the clip from one of the festival of the year, and you can kind of get a sense. But if you're interested, they have more clip. Oh no, on YouTube. And it's all very fragile and not fragile, I'm sorry, fragmented and short.
是录影的意思吗？打空哎啊！剩15分钟。
So this woman she's kind of improvising, saying that we only have 45 minutes left. Let's collect and then gather together. And please observe like the environment. There's no formal theater right here. Sometimes they are building a tent by themselves and live together, eat together. So it's cow. I think it's quite cute here, right here. So when they are having the festival, they are immersed in the natural environment. So a lot of the unexpected participants will be involved. I'll stop here. And like this one. This is the man you see in the very colorful clothes. He's in the indigenous clothes. And what they are doing right now is to dance in the indigenous way. But because I'm not, I don't belong to the indigenous community, I feel like I couldn't interpret this arbitrary. But you can kind of see the feeling right here. Okay, I will stop here and then get back to but if we have more time later, we can probably come back. I think the videos are very beautiful and touching. Okay, so in 2019, building upon the foundation of the previous indigenous performing arts, a camp, the inaugural Langasan International Performance Art Festival was launched in Hualien. Since then, the festival was annually gather over a dozen artists to present performances. Each iteration spans 3 days and takes place in varying locations, including like tourist attractions, cultural parks, military bases, indigenous villages, and schools. During the festival, most artists live together at a camp and collectively navigating unexpected challenges such as typhoon, flooding, and low temperatures. Visiting audiences often join in the impromptu performances and frequently volunteer to assist with the various tasks, like helping to build a tent. This shared experiences of coexistence and collaboration gradually foster a sense of community, a very intimate one, camaraderie, and mutual understanding that often extend beyond the festival itself. Over time, the annual event has evolved into a sustainable network of dialogue, exchange, and mutual influences, transforming the festival from a series of isolated events into an ongoing community network. While the festival is framed as a showcase of individual performance art pieces, it resists being reduced to the perspective of singular works. Instead, it must be understood as a dynamic and holistic artistic event where the collective processes and interactions form an inseparable and integral aspect of its identity. So let's take, for instance, Zhu Yilun's work during the 2021 festival. Her performance did not exist in isolation, but instead engaged vertically with artists' experiences across different temporalities and horizontally with the open-ended text of the ongoing processes. On the first day, the event took place at the Makotai village, our village, dressed in white clothing. So Zhu Yilun carried a white cloth bag filled with white powder, walking slowly as she scattered the powder. The powder left traces on the ground, smudging not only the terrain, but also her own body and those of the others. While the artists act as a guide, the performance co-creators included unpredictable human and non-human participants. On the second day, the venue shifted to a military-based site. Wearing light, thin clothing and with a white cloth tied around her neck, Zhu Yinglun invited participants to write messages of longing for their loved ones on the cloth, which were then tied to a wooden pole. She then climbed onto the rooftop of a post office, and chanted the written message aloud. So this is the third day. The performance took place in Guangfu High School. Toward the end of the performance, Zhu Yilun slurred with gender discriminatory connotation in red ink on plastic wrap while slapping herself. She then walked outdoor into the courtyard. By the time a typhoon had brought torrential rain and strong winds, soaking her and causing her to sway unsteadily. Despite a start of other performances and repeated attempt by other people to persuade her to please seek some shelter, she refused to leave the exposed courtyard. Zhu Yilun later acknowledged that the development of her performance was not part of the original plan, but was instead shaped by the improvisational influences of the environment and the participants' presence. Although distinct in form and theme, these performances share an openness in their textuality, welcoming varying levels of participation across time and space. But together, they illuminate the entanglements and violence inherent in human relationship, creating a resonant interplay between the performances. So both the festival and its organizer, Langasan Theater, have recently sought to draw inspiration from indigenous cosmologies, emphasizing an artistic approach grounded in interconnectedness of all entities and multidirectional interactions. Rather than foregrounding narrative of human salvation or the protection of non-human entities, the festival instead illuminates the vulnerability of human participants when confronted with unpredictable natural forces during performances. Simultaneously, it highlights the agency of all participants, both human and non-human, in cultivating mutual aid and collaborative dynamics, and robustly recognizes the gap between human and non-human others. And it is this recognition of the gap rather than its denial that I want to emphasize here as the first step toward accessing the modern human. To acknowledge the gap, even to acknowledging its irreducibility and unpredictability, is to face the other from a position of vulnerability, to admit that the self is fundamentally dependent on what cannot be grasped. Such dependency is not grounded in mutual understanding, absorption, or incorporation, but rather it is in an openness that emerges despite one's inability to relate. It is admitting our incapability that we offer ourselves up to be entangled, to be co-shaped, to be coexist with the non-human. From classical mechanics to quantum physics, from the microscopic to the cosmic scale, humanity has yet to answer the most fundamental question about existence. Why does universe exist? Where do we come from and where are we going? When did time begin and how did it end? Do things even have meaning? Unable to obtain definitive answers, we have found temporary refuge in theories and in hypotheses, dwelling within what is perceptible to us, extracting provisional principles to sustain our rhythm of life, like using leverage to build tools. We use quantum theory to design computers, or we have the speed of light to measure interstellar distance, and like using the chemical equation to produce food and medicine. And some people, out of necessity, have set aside these fundamental questions in favor of more immediate, graspable concerns. And this is entirely understandable. However, when immersion in what can be understood, lead us to believe that everything can be understood. When we begin to take comfort in the illusion of mastery, we risk reversing ends and means. And what is worse, we may foreclose the very possibility or the possibility of returning to those fundamental questions. Even with the most advanced technologies, we human perception does not equate to the experience of the other, right? The issue then is not whether we can sense or grasp something, but whether we are willing to acknowledging our limits, to suspend our impulse to interpret, and to offer mutual recognition and support. To feel something should not be a precondition for care or solidarity. Even in the state of incomprehension, interdependence remains possible, grounded not in overcoming the gap, but in respecting the gap. Ultimately, what we must cultivate is not a willful sensitivity, nor the illusion that everything can be absorbed into a human-centered horizon. Rather, we need an epistemology and a corresponding set of practices based on the assumption that there are ways of beings that we can never fully grasp. It is also worth noting that the trajectory from effective identification to the recognition of alterity alterity also maps onto a significant shift in modern theater history. So hence this Leman concept of post-dramatic theater articulates this very transition from coherent, intelligible narrative to fragmented, non-integrated presentation of affects. And in this framework, the dramatic text is no longer supreme, nor does it carry inherent meaning. Instead, all theatrical elements are placed in equal footing, of open outward toward the world. The role of the audience becomes central, not as passive recipient, but as active participants. Theater, in this post-dramatic sense, no longer offers a sentimental, immersive realism. Rather, it becomes a field or apparatus that continually provoke thoughts and action. Consider the hibernation project as example. While it invites every one of us to imagine themselves communicating or resting like fungi, it entirely departs from conventional dramatic forms. There are no professional actors playing trees. No one is playing mushroom or playing skies or soil. And there's no stage, no set, no lighting design. There is no performance to be passively consumed. Instead, a non-professional participant or sometimes even participants like people passing by or the stray dogs on the streets engage with loosely provided resource and materials to construct their own gesture and narrative. I'm sorry, that's my cat. I think he is also an unpredictable participant in our meeting. Whether it is the facilitator's brief introduction followed by deliberate withdrawal, or the participants' spontaneous, even chaotic improvisation, the project underscores the contingency and openness of all theatrical elements. Reflexively, it calls attention to its own performativity. The hibernation project becomes a parody of anthropocentric ecological engagement. Through its intentional failure, its refusal to convincingly simulate non-human life forms, it actually exposes the impossibility of top-down, willful human attempts to embody or to fully understand other modes of existence. In doing so, it reveals the urgent need to affirm the irreducible alterity of those we cannot fully experience. Of course, it's important to clarify that this recognition of the impossibility of truly experiencing the non-human does not imply a withdrawal from relationship, nor an excuse to remain distant or disconnected. But I wanted to say it breaks the assumed link between empathy and access, affirming that care and solidarity can persist even in the absence of understanding. In this sense, participation in ecological theater is no longer about watching the stories about nature. It becomes a plunge into the unknowable mesh of all beings, an immersion in which we cannot fully grasp. And perhaps in doing so, we take the first step toward accessing the world, not by mastering it, but by surrendering to its radical otherness. So perhaps the real question here is not how to become the other, but how to stay with the unknowability of the other, how to live, act, and how to imagine within the gap. As theater makers, scholars, and participants, we or myself, we are invited not to resolve the tension between human and non-human, but to dwell in them, to let those tensions unsettle us, to reshape us, and to guide us toward forms of care that are not based on mastery, but on humility, surrender, and interdependence. This, I believe, is where planetary thinking might begins, not with a grand vision of saving the world, but with a small gesture of stepping into it differently. And in the interest of time, I will probably stop here for now. And there is still a so this is a still work in progress. So there are many parts that for sure need some further revision and development. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And I would really love to hear everybody's feedbacks and thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fan-Ting, for this very rich and very interesting presentation. I think you have put the points, you have put the accent on the most important question, which is what to do about the non-humans. How can we imagine them? And so in arts and in today's context, we don't have much time. That means that we don't have enough time to get immersed into with the trees, the bamboos you showed us, and the mushrooms, so that we can start to dialogue with them, like Wen Tong Yuke did under Song Dynasty, becoming a bamboo, right? So I think that what you said, that the first step is to accept this incompatibility, but then we might have another step, which is try to get immersed into nature. But in our world, this is impossible. That's
Yes.
what you showed us. So that's another contradiction, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm. So the examples you showed us are very, very striking, very interesting, and at least they make us think about it. So thank you very much for all these examples. And I didn't know about all that. And when you started presenting the echo drama and then the inclusion of non-human actors into theater, this is very, very interesting. I didn't know about it, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't want to be the only one to speak. So, in the audience, is there any question? I mean, from Johanna or Chi-Ming or whoever?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to say something like
Please,
feedback.
Chi-Ming.
Yeah, some are questions, some are comments. Yeah, in somewhere you have said in the in the starting of your presentation, perhaps first part, you said you have some doubt about the possibility of planetary theater or planetary aesthetics in the theater, but what you have presented afterwards seems confirm there's a great possibilities. So we like to have some more conclusive synthesis from you, conclusive answer from you about that question. That is the first thing. The second thing is we can see there are kind of element of nature in many of the examples you have presented, which are not certainly not in the classical theater. It seems there's a kind of a opposition between the classical conception of theater and the nature. But the nature, of course, is very important in the planetary art. So I would like you to develop more about that part. And the third one is, of course, the non-human, so-called non-human. But I'm not very sure about the non-human here. Are they other so-called multiple species relationship, or just some kind of natural element, or even so-called technical dimension in the theater? Because the machine is very important in the theater. The machine is even kind of a central metaphor for the theater. Would you like to comment more about that part? Yeah. So thank you for this very rich presentation. That's inspired quite a lot for us. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ling, for the two very important and question. About the second one, about the theater right now, absolutely, I agree that there's this kind of a very strong opposition between the traditional theater and also the theaters nowadays, like what is interesting is that in theater studies felt in Taiwan or in globally, like in the past, like usually most of us, we focus on the script or the text, like something that is written, and we focus on the structure of the play, like the narrative, the characterization, or the language, especially after the linguistic turn happened in the 60s. Like a lot of the contemporary theater practitioners and philosophers, they put a lot of attention on the linguistic or the language of the play. But then I observed that after 2000 or 2010, actually, there was a huge wave of the digital like digital spectacle, like that the wave influenced the industry very strongly. And then possibly because also there are more and more different kind of leisure forms like television, there's film, there's lot of different way of entertainment. So less and less actually audiences go to the theater. And what is the resolution is that more and more theater practitioners are trying to, seek for innovative, fun way to attract new audiences into the theater. And what they are trying to do is they want to have the participant, the visitor, or the audience in the original sense to do something so they won't feel bored. Like we're here to watch a performance, but then why don't I just, stay at home and Netflix and chill? Why should I go to the theater to watch an actual perform? What's the difference about? So when they offer opportunity for the audience to immerse in like a 3D environment and also interact with the performer, the audience feel fun, and also there will be more dynamical and dialectical kind of interaction that happening or developed during the performance. So I think this is quite interesting when this kind of new performing arts genre, when it kind of confront the strong neo-materialist and also the ecofeminist thoughts, when these kind of discourses and also the development of the contemporary theater bump into each other. So what happened is that more and more theater and also more and more people expect to participate in actual is actually an artistic events instead of a theater. So they wanted to participate in a fun thing, and they send the audience themselves are also the creator and author, so they can kind of feel like, I'm an artist too. I am by doing this art, I'm also an artivist. Like I am doing something to protect the environment. I am actually involving into the environment protection activism. So I think there's double kind of pleasure. One is the, having fun with the theater thing, and another one is for them to actually feel good that they are at the same time contributing themselves or devoting themselves into the environment issue. So this is what I think is quite interesting, and I look forward to the future development. I'm also curious, like, if right now it is so complicated, what can be, the future form? Like, I would sometimes joke with my friends and saying that, oh, let's go to see this show. And one interesting, so like 2 weeks ago, me and my students, my advisees, I was passing this information that I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the group, but this group very similar to Langasa. There's a group of art, a very avant-garde artists. They are calling an artistic event, and for this event, it's 9 days. So all the participants, you have to, it's very difficult for us, to any of us, because we are all busy. We have the life routine, we have work, we have, schools, but then it's difficult for us to like spend whole 9 days in the artistic event. And for that event, it's very hardcore. You have to um uh, you have to search for your own food. You cannot bring any food, and you have to, build your own shelter and sleeping area. And also you have to help each other to get through this 9 days. And also every day there's will be like different kind of diverse program to participate. So no time, there's no me time. You cannot rest. Holy 9 days. So I think it's very hardcore, um but yes, I think it's really interesting that to see how the people now, not only the practitioners but also the audience, that everybody's expecting to be involved in a very complicated work. Yeah. So I think this is the second question. I'm sorry, what is the first one? Can
Yeah,
you?
just a reaction for your answer, your
Oh,
response.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
it seems that we come back to the very beginning of the theater, that is something between ritual and the play, in the sense of game, not to play a role, um, performing a role, but in the sense of the game. Yeah, very interesting, development. And the first one is just you have said that you doubt the possibility of the planetary dimensional planetary aesthetics in the theater, while what you have
Uh,
presented just confirm that no, it's very possible. Yeah, that is my response. Yeah.
thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Mhm. Hello.
Okay.
Anna, yes, go on.
Thank you so much. I I just abstracted by the title of your presentation, staying with the gap. So it reminds me to a new book. I mean, the Holloway. I think many
Yeah,
uh,
staying with the trouble.
is staying with the trouble. I don't know whether problem, but it's different. What do you have? Um, but the the subtitle is interesting too because you use the performance but you use the inaccessibility. Normally we'll use touchable or
Mm,
untouchable.
mm,
Touchability. So what's the difference between why you choose that term rather than that? Because it will give a different thoughts. And
yeah.
it's for things from the title. It's I just I was attracted by very impressive and made me to think. And I this is first things. And the second thing, actually, the same with Professor Lin Zhiming's the question is very similar. I think when I'm listen to your talk, it's so amazing because it challenged all the traditional image of theater, all the form, the contents, the way of performance, And so actually, especially the one you have mentioned, you show us the sixth dream,
Yeah.
right? So you say that all the people sitting in the bus, or all of them are audience, right? Did you? If I did mistake, because I don't know what is that. So at that time, just the question in my mind is, what's the difference between a tourist tour?
Uh,
This is the things. So, and if you say that, want to say that the participant is from the 24 hours sleep with the plants. I cannot say that exactly the title of the theater, but I mean the drama. But I'm wondering who are the participants, because it seems that beside the human being, first we say that challenge with the traditional the performance of the theater. Before we say that the actor and audience, they are opposite. Now in
right.
this, it seems that you are one of the audience and you participate that kind of the performance. It seems that the audience at the same time they are the actors, right? Actors
Audience.
and the
Yes,
audience.
yes. Yeah.
No gap. It seems that probably there's still a gap, but they actually the audience have to involve much
Mm,
more than before in
yes.
the performance. Uh, and that things I understand very well. But at the same time, and you say that most of, and you mentioned that the failure, the failure
Uh,
of the film, it's very interesting because the failure is from the side of the audience, probably the participant, because
yeah.
they ex when they if I went there, if I go there, probably I will bring some kind of the conceptual framework about
Right.
the prof, and then definitely I will I feel lost because I cannot get that kind of the thing I what I want. This is a thing,
Mm,
but my question is whether the participants is more than human being. The participants should
mm,
include all of the non-human being, especially the plants. I mean the
mm,
plant, the vegan, the animals, the insects, which I don't know. Even the
mm,
elves,
mm,
the elves, we take a breath because through the elves we
mm,
communicate with the plants,
right.
right? Because you say we smell it. So I'm wondering whether the playwright or the director, whether they consider that kind of the point that who are the participants, whether the participants are more than human being. That's my second question. Is it probably just we try to say that, and then if we have time, then we continue.
Yeah,
Anyway,
thank
thank you
you.
so much, Sam. Amazing talk. Thank you so much. Good.
Thank you, Professor Liu. Yeah, these are a very, very significant question and feedbacks. The first question is about the title. Yeah, absolutely. The inspiration is just from the Donna Haraway's thing with the trouble. I actually spent quite a bunch of time to think about the main title. I wanted to kind of emphasize the my argument right here, but I also wanted to to make it feel like more intimate. So then I wanted to use this one to kind of, at the same time echoing Donna Haraway, but I also wanted to underscore the concept of gap right here. And also the reason that use accessibility instead of touch or touching, I think it's a quite important question, and I also think maybe I should think twice or the third time because English is not my native language. So I think there would be a nuance between the two words, touch and access. There will be two different there's nuance, subtle difference between the two terms. But then actual the technical reason that I used access is because when I was doing my kind of field work and also my theoretical framework, I have a lot of inspiration from the speculative realism. And when Meyasu and Harman, when they're trying to kind of forge the idea of the SR, the speculative realism, the word that they use access, the accessibility to access the real, to access the world or not. So that's the main reason that I use this one. But then when you ask, reminds me maybe I should think twice to think about the word choice and maybe to come with a more strong reason that what I use this one. But maybe right now, maybe just a rough thoughts is that when we say touch, it's actually depends on our senses on the skin. So you touch something, right? But you usually you say touch with the skin, but you don't say touch with the eyes or the ears. But if I wanted to kind of emphasize all kind of sensories or the question or the issue that can we actually, like grasp the other, maybe use the word of touching might kind of limits the sensory to only the skin. So maybe, I don't know, this is a pretty rough thoughts right now for that question. And for the second question about the participants, you mentioned about the 沿海六个梦, the sixth stream, the production. And I think that is a very, very interesting question because when I was in a performance, I myself wonder multiple times that am I in a performance or am I in a tourist attraction tour? Because everything that we are in the a tourist bus and the setting is very tourist and the actor standing in front of us, she is using a microphone to introduce. So now you can see on your left hand side there's the factories and there's a building, and you can see the right hand side there's a river that is polluted because of the Wawawa project. So it sounds like pretty much like a tourist, right? But I think that is the interesting part, to make it very vague, the boundaries vague between that. All of the audience, they so one thing to be noted that these audiences, they are, because I did an interview, with the audiences and asking them their backgrounds and the reason that they wanted to participate in this production, because in this production is in Kaohsiung. So most of them, they're actually, like travel across from the different 县市 cities. So they have to spend the travel time using the HSR 高铁 or train, the traditional train, or driving by themselves all the way to Kaohsiung, and then spend like 2 hours to gather together and then to go on to the trip. So I think it's a really big the investment of time and energy on this. So I asked them, so why do you want to participate in this kind of a hardcore production? So I was very surprised because 90% of them are not, people that is not in the, okay, let me use the positive tense. So 90% of them are actually in the theater industry. So they are not people who are not familiar with the theater. They are actually, like they are practitioners, they are artists, they are musicians. So I asked them, so what do you feel? Because I thought that I feel like we are, a group of artists, and like I'm the only scholar. We are like group of people, have some kind of goals in mind and to participate in this event. We're not like random, like just see a performance. So what is your reason to be here? And most of them answered that they wanted to see like this kind of a vague boundary or the vague kind of line between life and art and between traditional performance and uh eerie kind of a weird strange hardcore event. So yeah, that interview have a lot of information right now. If I have more time, I can share with you, but maybe in the future in my paper, I can share more of the what I got interesting kind of answers. And also we were mentioned
Sorry,
about yes.
Fan-Ting, we still have time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have 30 minutes. But if I want to go through the details, then it will take a lot of time though. Um, And also, there's a question about the participants about the in the 24 the hibernation project, right? And whether the yeah, yeah, whether the artists they wanted to include like plants or veggies or skies or soil as a performance or actors or actress. I think this is quite interesting because it reminds me actually for another performance. I don't know the English term. The Chinese name of is 给植物的音乐会. So I will translate it as a concert, a series concert for the plants. So it's I think it's the year before last year, and it's a series of events containing four performances. You can buy, a ticket by each you can choose the performance that you wanted to participate. And I participate all of them. And basically the goal, the main idea is they are on the rooftop of the Taipei Performing Arts Center in Shiling. And on that was my first time getting onto the rooftop. Usually I was, in the traditional what is this called? I think I'm sure 志明老师 knows better. The blue ball or the red ball. There is a traditional performing space in that center. But for that production, all of us, we are on the rooftop. So I went on the rooftop and so the title is the concert for the plants. So when you buy the tickets, they will encourage you. You can bring your own pet plants, like your the plants that you have in your home. And especially because at the time, it is at the end of the pandemic time. So like if you can kind of remember during the most severe pandemic time that where everybody was sheltering the place, right? Sheltering at home and we cannot go out. And by the time a lot of the people, they are, become the green fingers. They are having new plants at home and then exchanging, information and knowledge about, growing plants, right? And so a lot of people have plants. So the group of the theater company, they say you are very welcome to bring your own plants into the performance. But I don't my plants is like this big, the very big one, a very big one. So I cannot bring my own plants into the performance. So I go by myself. And then I was surprised because although this says that this is a concern for the plants, and actually a lot of the audience, for sure, they surely bring their own plants. But the thing is, after an interview, I heard that because of this production, that the theater company, they have to ironically cut a lot of the original plants on the rooftop to coordinate the space for the production. And I think it's pretty ironic because you are saying this is a concert for the plants. So it should be a plant friendly production. So this is one of the thing. And another thing is during the performance that because it's very crowded and it's immersive, that there's no sitting. You can like walk around and there's a lot of stands. Like there's a stance that you can put on the clothing and accessories, and you can dress like a plant. And there's also a shaman stand that you can meditate and then meditate with the plants. And but the thing is, the entire event is really noisy that I don't, of course I'm a human. I cannot speak for the plants, but I feel like it can be a pleasure for plants in a they are playing the 电音. What is the English term 电音? Um electric music. They're playing the electric music very big, very loud, very noisy, and a lot of people crowded, like walking, like like a electric rave party. So I don't think it could be any pleasure for the plants or the trees or the flowers or soil or the insects. So at the time and after the performance, I was thinking for a long time that are we, or should we, or even are we able to like include the non-human into the performance and claiming that they are the actors or performers? I don't know if we can do that, but if we are not defining like a traditional performance, we are just simply saying that this is a experience with a duration of time and space, but this is just an experience, and in during this experience there is a participation of human and non-human. Maybe that's a way of putting it. Yes, I see Jieting is raising hands.
Yeah, thank you so much, Monting. Very interesting. We look forward to, continuing our conversation on this.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, please, Jieting.
Okay, thank you very much, Fan-Ting, and for this interesting presentation. And I just want to say, because you just mentioned about I'm sorry, my camera, doesn't work. So
No, it's okay.
would you please allow me, to only hear my voice? Thank you. Because you just mentioned about concert for plants, and I was also there, and I totally agree with you.
Which production were you in?
I mean the concert for planets.
No, I mean there's 4. Are you in 4 of them?
I was also at the one on the rooftop, but I cannot remember which one exactly. Yes, but anyway, I was at one of the concerts you just mentioned at the rooftop of the Taipei Performing Arts Center, and I totally agree with you. The music is too loud, and besides, I think the light, it's just like, make whole place like a daytime. But I remember the concert I went was in the evening, so I don't think that the plants would like the so many lights. So I think it, so I think it Now, I think it is related to your main topic about anthropocentric. And I think although a lot of theater piece or maybe dance piece, because you also mentioned about Su Wenqi's dance work, I
Yes.
mean, although a lot of performers argue that or claim that they are dealing with ecological issues, but maybe there should be some way. I mean, maybe through performance analysis, or maybe some way or some criteria to help us. How to say? I mean, to help us see if it is really getting out of anthropocentrism, because I think the concept you just mentioned, I mean, it is still it is still concept for people. I mean, so we need light. I mean, in the
Yeah,
evening, and
true.
so we need loud music so that uh the huge crowd could be like being immersed, I mean, in the
Right.
performance. So for me, I agree with you, it doesn't work. And about the question concerning whether we could really um, have access, I mean, to non-human things like plants, or maybe animals, or maybe I think it just reminds me that maybe I think all of you must know. I mean, maybe the Chinese traditional Qing music, I mean, Qing music,
Mm-hmm.
could be a kind of art that really, uh, how to say, I mean, have a lot of intimate dialogues with all of all of the things in nature, like the flowing water, the bamboos, and or the forest or the rocks, because according to my knowledge, actually there are a lot of descriptions and explanations of performing techniques of Guqing and
Mm.
this Qing music, and using a lot of poetry about nature, and to describe how your finger should move. Like your
Like
finger
like
should move
like
like flowing clouds or something, or
mm,
flowing water, something like that.
yes.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
believe that the Qing musician, although I think in musicological studies now, people, I mean, maybe not all, but I think based to what I know, I think maybe there should be more attention to this explanation in ancient notations. For me, I think they are not only metaphors, or
Mm.
like or I mean, for me, I think they are like a guide or instructions for musicians. I mean, to learn how to pluck the strings. So you have to
Mm.
use your finger and to pluck the string like just a bird dancing in the wind, something like that. And I actually, when I read all of these notations and these explanations, I am so fascinated, because I think there should be some musical logical analysis about the dynamics we sense with our body. I mean,
Mm.
in these natural things, I mean,
Mm.
and the connection and between these natural things or imagery, poetic imagery, with the actual music we eventually hear. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so anyway, I mean, just a comment and like a feedback. Thank you again, and sorry for I mean, that my camera doesn't work. So
Oh, it's okay.
I hope you can hear me well. Thank you again.
Yes, I hear you very clearly. And I think what you just mentioned is very amazing. It kind of remind me of myself playing erhu. I don't play guqin, but I play erhu. But the interesting story is whenever I play erhu, my cat hates it. So he will escape into a closet and then close the closet and just hiding in the pile of the clothes. So I feel like my erhu probably is horrible or it's just not in a harmony, with the all non-human beings. And I think what you also mentioned is a question of maybe the question of the difference maybe between the theme music and the abstract music, because you mentioned about the guqin. They have the guidance and instruction to use the fingers to maybe to mimic the idea or the feeling of the nature. And I remember when I play erhu, one of the songs, 赛马, horse racing. I think it's maybe also in Guxing too, that it's supposed that we have to use our finger to feel like we are the racing horses, the speed and the sweat. So it's like but then um there's one time on stage when I was performing with the group of the Chinese music orchestra, I feel alienated because I feel like, we are actually just showing the technique. Just like the Black Swan, there's the famous turning that usually the ballerina who played the Black Swan, everybody, focus on that scene to prove that she is able to do the spinning. And I remember by the time I remember that we are showing to the audience that how fast we can be. And that doesn't sound like horse or racing horses. I think it's really difficult, or maybe it's a question of yes or no. I'm still debating that human are ever to able to using art to really like mimic the nature. Maybe we can kind of try to access, but I feel like there's always the gap between what we perform or what we present between the nature itself. So I agree with you. This is really, really difficult. And the four concerts for the plants, it's a series and they have the pretty noisy one. And I have to be fair enough. There is also one that's not too noisy. That one I remember is the something with the yoga and some, ding ding dong dong, some kind of a world music, and it's quite peaceful. But still, because they ask all of us to lie down on the grass. So I feel like a lot of the grass are, they are kind of squeezed by our heavy bodies. And maybe for us, we really rest. And the day that I went, we even see the rainbow. It's an open air rooftop space. So we even see the rainbow. And I remember all of us. We're like, oh, we're so lucky. Oh my God, we are the chosen one. We see the rainbow right now. It's so beautiful. It's so harmonious. It's we all everybody we 升华. But then I look down that the grass that I beneath my body, and I feel really guilty. So I totally agree with you. I think that performance raised a lot of a very important and urgent question that if we want to do theater and performing arts, then if we wanted to involve non-human others, then what is the maybe the ethics between among the mise en scene, or wh whether it can be possible to create like an ethics or what you mentioned about the criteria. I think it's very, very interesting and also very important. Thank you, Jieting.
Thank you so much, Fan-Ting. I was
Thank you.
yeah, sorry, Jieting.
No, no, I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you.
Can I add a word about the what you were talking about? What Jieting was talking about the metaphors describing the maybe the gesture or the sound of guqin. You have the same thing in calligraphy, in the art of
Oh,
calligraphy. Yes,
yes.
Yes,
the
yes,
description of gesture and how to
yes,
hold the brush with
yes, yes,
metaphors. But for me, these
yes,
metaphors are very clear and explain very precisely kinds of strokes, of brush
Mm,
strokes.
yes,
It's not
yes.
abstract. It's really very precise.
I mean, for me personally, I would say it is really very to the body. I mean, it's really very bodily. So I can totally understand how, I mean, why and how they use these natural things as instructions for performance. So maybe, I mean, I think because Fanting also mentioned about some pieces, um, it's more like you have to imitate, I mean, the sound of the natural things. But for me personally, I mean, in case of calligraphy, 书法, or 古琴, I will regard all, I mean, these metaphors, so-called metaphors or a poetic imagery, more as instructions. I mean, for the performance, I mean, for them to know how to use the finger, the body, and with the correct dynamics. I mean, how to use force. I mean, maybe also, I mean, in some way. So maybe it is not always about creating something that is that resembles the natural things. But that is my own perspective. Yes, it's something more like the technical guide, but very. I mean, it's closely related to the body. That's my personal perspective. Thank you.
Jieting, I think you're completely right. And I would just add something and say that it's not only imitation, it's not imitation, it's observation, which means that you have to forget yourself. That's what Fanting has told us about. When you are in the play of um, where is it? 24-hour sleep experiment, right? Into the mycelium, when you get into the mycelium world, then you have a kind of impression of loss of yourself, right? Because you're not comfortable and you're not in your usual world. So
yes.
in this process, this is the first step of this process. In this process, if you get to forget yourself,
Mm,
then you can feel what we call a metaphor through your body. Just Jieting said, what he said is very, I think is very right. So if you feel this through your body, then if you forget yourself, then you can feel the gesture by itself. And you don't have to think about it. You're not yourself anymore. And I think that these so-called metaphors are not metaphors, but they are not only guides, they are what you have to do through observation and forgetting yourself, just like in Zhuangzi, so that you can feel being something like the 10,000 horses running and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. And what Jeting was mentioning also remind me of the maybe this is a wrong connection, but I just remember letter whole I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce German. It's the 10,000 things. I'm sure that many of you um read its book already. But I think possibly with a connection or dialogue with what Jeting was mentioning.
Is there any, we have 3 minutes left. Is there any question in the audience? Or a remark or a comment? No comment? No question? Well then, Fan-Ting, thank you so much for this
Thank you.
this great presentation. Really, it was very, very interesting, enlightening for me. And well, it's another world. It's wonderful. And all these experiences you have showed us are really very interesting. Maybe can you share the links with us in the chat so that we can have them and go to see the place you
Oh,
showed?
absolutely.
Yeah, can you paste the links, please, in the chat?
Yes.
That would be
Yeah.
nice.
So yeah. And then don't close the meeting room right now. Let me just
Oh,
paste.
sure, sure. We still have a few minutes. So that everybody can copy it. And anyway, if you agree,
Yeah.
I have recorded your presentation. If you agree, I can put it on Carl's website, on Carl's YouTube channel. But you will let
And
me know.
I also am very I don't know if it's too hardcore, but I feel like if you have time and energy, I really encourage everyone to participate in this very hardcore one just once to feel the uncontrollability of the event and this entire unstable and precarious loss of control environment, loss of control living condition that is very different from the usual time and space and from our daily life. It's very interesting. So I'll copy and paste all the links right here.
Thank you so much. That will be very
Yeah.
useful for all of us.
Yolaine, because the chat cannot, copy and paste. We can. So if you want to have the link, you have to click it right now on your computer. Then
Yes.
otherwise you cannot. After the screens turn it off, then we cannot keep all the link. So could you please, Fanting, could you please send all the
Yeah.
link to Yolaine? Then she
Yeah, for
can.
sure.
Thank you
You
so
you
much.
can copy them right
No, we
now.
can
Yes, you can. I just did it.
probably because you are the host. We cannot copy and paste. We can't.
All right.
I I can send the links to Yolaine and I think it'll be
Please,
easy.
so that I will
Yeah,
yeah, I will translate, I will all transfer them to everybody.
yeah, for sure. And maybe I can add some more.
Sure,
Yeah,
please,
yeah.
yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
That would be nice.
yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fanti. And thanks to all of you. And we will meet each other next year. It's not in 2025, in October 2025. And I will send you the program. We will have a workshop in Taiwan for 2 days in December. Professor Lin Ming, can you just add 2 words on this?
Wait a moment.
We
Can
will
you hear
have,
me?
anyway, we will have two presentations in our seminar, one in October and one in November.
Yeah.
And so we will send you the program in September or October. And then in December, we will have a workshop.
Now we plan to have a workshop. I think it will be the 5th and the 6th. It's a Saturday and a Sunday in Taipei, in my university, 和平东路2段. So in 大安区, very easy to access. And I hope everyone, if you are in Taipei, could join us. Invite you to join us in person. So we will have a meeting in person in which we could engage for some deeper discussions.
Yes, for discussions, it will be much easier. So thanks to everybody, and see you in next October. Thank you again,
Thank you,
Fan-Ting.
Yolaine, for organizing all this.
Thank you, Yolaine.
Thank you.
Have a nice vacation.
Have a nice vacation to all of you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.